Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Mac, and Carta.
Mac. Like Mac and me?
Yeah, like Mac and me. Yes.
We already covered that.
Yes, we did. Yeah, it was a great movie.
Yes, it was.
Sponsored by McDonald's and Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm. And Sears.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, today on the show, we're covering a very special episode of a sitcom that is dear to my heart. It's actually one of my favorite shows ever. So we're covering season 4, episode 21 of Boy Meets World, a show created by Michael Jacobs and April Kelly that ran in the mid to late 90s on ABC's TGIF.
Mm-hmm.
This show starred Ben Savage as Corey Matthews as he meets the world. But around the second or third season, the show started kind of like veering off into like lands where they focused more on other characters instead of the titular boy, especially his best friend Sean Hunter, played by the great Ryder Strong. The show also had Betsy Randall as Amy Matthews, his mom, William Russ as Alan Matthews, his dad, Danielle Fishel as Topanga Lawrence, Will Friedle as his brother Eric Matthews, Anthony Tyler Quinn as Jonathan Turner, and William Daniels, the great William Daniels, a.k.a. the voice of Kit on Knight Rider, as George Feeney. Yes, I always think, I want a car that sounds like George Feeney.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I think they should have a crossover where the car just starts giving like life advice and stuff to Michael Knight, Yeah.
Yep.
The episode we're covering is called Cult Fiction, a play on Pulp Fiction, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it guest stars Jerry Levine as Mr. Philip Mack and Tamara Mello as Sherry. Jerry Levine, people may know from playing Styles in Teen Wolf, which is another one of my favorite things, but he's been in like every television show ever and lots of movies, and he's directed like 42 different projects too, so he's had a long career. Good actor. Plays creepy really well in this episode. Yes, we're doing the series here on a very special episode. If you don't know the history of a very special episode, they were never actually called that, but there was always like these episodes going back all the way to like Bewitched and stuff, where there would be like a special topic that they would cover. Like Bewitched tackled racism, and All in the Family had a few, including one where Edith got raped. There's these ones where they deal with like drugs or pedophilia or cults, as in this case, different things that different things like that, where you're dealing with something that isn't as funny as your normal episode and is teaching a moral lesson of some sort. Yeah, we're going to cover a few of these in the near future. I've got a couple more that I have in mind to cover soon, but I wanted to start with my favorite show, Boy Meets World, here, and in the most bizarre episode ever. And this is on a show where they had time travel involved in certain episodes.
Wow.
But I think this is the weirdest episode of the whole series. They literally time traveled to the 60s and 50s and stuff in other episodes.
Really? Is that canon?
Kinda.
Wow.
It was in the episode, and if nothing else, it was in Corey's mind in those episodes.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, wow.
Yeah, but, so yeah, we've got this going on. So, what are your initial thoughts of this episode here, Sesame?
Oh, man. It went by fast. It was a little too fast for me as an episode.
Yeah.
It should have been like a 40-minute episode, like a double, like an hour long, episode with commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's things happen really fast, but they also seem to happen really fast in the time of the show, like in the show world,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they happen fast for us because you only have like 23 minutes to fit in all this shit, but
right.
It's
then Yeah. Other than that, I mean, it was just, I think the episode just suffered just because of how little time they had to fit everything in. It was just, it wasn't really a lot going on, as far as like substance is concerned.
Yeah. It was, just so you know, it was written by Jeff Minnell, who is one of the main writers of the show, and directed by Jeff McCracken, who is one of the main directors of the show as well. So it was like, not like, some weird outside, written episode or something. These people were both on staff. So
yeah.
Yeah, that helmed the episode. So this is like towards the end of season 4. There's some other very special episodes that come before this, and I think maybe one after that we may want to cover in the future too. Like I said, this is the weirdest one. So the basic idea of this episode, what happens here? I mean, if you want to start, you can start.
Sure, Michael. So what happens in the show, Michael, is in the beginning, Michael, they're getting like their test results.
Sure do like my name, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And Michael, yes. And Sean, everyone's getting their test results from school, and not like a medical test results or anything like that. But
from Mr. Turner.
From Mr. Turner's class. Sean, not surprisingly, doesn't get a good grade because he's like the I don't care about school, type of character or whatever, and Mr. Turner kind of gives him a talking to, kind of in a weird. Like, okay, I understand, like, tough love, but, like, he literally says, like, on 3 separate occasions, I'm one of a handful of people who care about you. Like, wow. Like, I mean, like, just... like basically saying no one gives a shit about you.
I know what he was going for, though. It was kind of like the meaning that, like, I'm one of the handful of people that really, really care about you, not like superficially and stuff. And he was his guardian for quite a while prior to this.
No, I know, series, but it's just the way he said that. Plus, too, that's kind of something that Colt would say as well, almost like, we're the only ones that care about you type of thing. So it's kind of weird, interesting that leads into this girl named Sherry, which I don't know if she's a normal character or not.
No, this is the only episode she appears in, so...
Okay. Well, apparently he knows who she is in the show, at least, because they seem to like know each other a little bit. And she's like, "Oh well, I have 100 people who care about me or whatever, and why don't you come, hang out with me or whatever? I'll get you some coffee or whatever."
She says, "I'll buy you a cup of coffee," which she doesn't do.
No, she doesn't. There's no coffee exchange whatsoever in this episode.
There is an off-brand cola given to him by Mr. Mack. Yes, that's it.
A guy named Mr. Mack, which is interesting because this guy named Mr. Mack is a cult leader, and you have Allison Mack, which famously was a real person, or is a real person who was in a cult, and maybe Mr. Mack is like her uncle or something like that. I don't know. In universe, going outside of universe to influence her and how to run a cult.
This was predictive programming. They were telling us
it was predictive because that was a Disney show, and Allison Mack was a big Disney actress back in the day. So
I think she was in like one Disney movie, but yeah, sure.
Whatever. She was in something. I don't know. And then
she was in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves.
She was in that, and then she was in that other episode where it was like a musical, like Shangri-La or something like that.
Oh yeah, that show that we watched. Yeah.
Yeah, and in that episode, she was bossing people around a lot, much like in later life, she was bossing people around with the cult. So that was also maybe predictive programming. I don't know. I think you said that actually in the episode.
Yeah.
But you mentioned it's like much like in real life, but she was telling people what to do and trying to control their lives. And she takes them to like this club, I guess, and I'm not even really sure where it is or whatever. And there's a bunch of fellow teenagers hanging out, chatting with each other, and apparently they all live here, and some of them are minors. And then this is like some guy's house, I guess, or owns the place, or that was never really explained of how they live in this place, which
there must be like more rooms outside of what we saw, so I'm just assuming,
I guess,
there's probably
this guy just owns like a huge dorm room essentially, and he's the leader of this group called the Center. And I kid you not, it takes about 3 minutes from the beginning of the show, including the credits, mind you, like the opening credits, like 3 minutes of this episode for Sean to be completely brainwashed by this cult, and he immediately just starts hugging his friends and like acting like he's on ecstasy or something like that.
Yeah, it's
weird.
Like, Sean, like he first sees the signs when he first meets Mr. Mack. He says, "Oh, this is a cult." Like he's freaking out. Like he realizes that this is a cult. But like less than an hour later, he's Corey runs into him and he's like, "It's not a cult."
Yeah, like even before he even says anything, he's like, "Wait, what? Like what are you talking about?"
Because that's definitely it's just like, you know what? I'm not racist, but
like randomly say it, like like nobody even said anything.
Yeah.
Just random preemptively say it, and it's like, what the fuck? And like the other thing too is about this is like they're acting like this Mr. Mac guy was like the most charismatic person in the world. Like he wasn't even really that charismatic. Like he just would say the person's name a bunch of times, which is like one of the first things they teach you, like how to connect with people is to say their name or whatever. But like he does it like 3 times in a row. And
I mean, I guess that's like a thing that people have said about Tom Cruise.
Oh, really?
Like, he always does that once he learns your name, he just constantly says it to you.
See, I can see that doing that a couple times, but like if you're constantly doing that, it just gets annoying. Like I would be annoyed if someone kept saying sesame after every sentence. You know, I'd be like, okay, like I know what you're trying to do. Like,
yeah, I'm sure it's a little bit more subtle in reality, but still, you know, you will have people do it. Like, you know, they'll say Sesame, how are you feeling today, Sesame, you know, and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
and
just
like,
so weird.
And like he's sitting there talking about like, you know, you need to respect my beliefs or whatever. But it's like, what beliefs? Like there's nothing in the episode that they actually even say what they believe. It's just centered, be centered. Like what does that mean? Like what, you know, like.
Yeah, what kind of cult are they? Are they like, you know, the Hare Krishna where they're gonna go kill people and stuff, or are they like are they like Synanon where they're gonna like, you know, basically beat people and belittle people in a circle? What do they do in this cult besides hugs? Yeah, besides hugs.
That's it. They hug people and then they say, be centered. And then like, that's the entire belief system, apparently.
Which is kind interesting. There's a lot. And I think that they kind of intentionally, even though this was before a lot of the big exposés on Scientology, the center type thing, being center was very close to being clear.
Oh.
And also in the episode later on, there's a celebrity room.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is similar to the fact that Scientology has celebrity centers.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was like, you know, this is like small scale Scientology, basically.
Like just some random dude who, so like literally within 3 minutes, he's hugging Corey, and of course they're doing the whole like, bros don't hug each other, bro, because that's gay, you know, kind of thing or whatever. And, you know, like Sean just looks like he's literally like brainwashed, like he's like smiling all weird and shit and talking all just weirdly and weird and all that weird stuff. And so they try to like infiltrate the cult with Corey's and his brother, I forgot his name.
Yeah, I mean, before that though, I want to point out there was a line.
Oh, sure.
There was a line I thought was interesting, is that Corey says something to him about, you know, like, dude, you met this guy like, you know, an hour ago or something, you know.
Exactly.
But it's just like, and Sean says to him, the length of a journey has nothing to do with its value.
Right.
But he also says, when he says it, he says, the length of the journey has nothing to do with its value, Sean. And Sean's the one who said this, like he's repeating what Mr. Mac told him.
Exactly.
By saying his own name.
Well, that's part of the cult thing is they do that, you know.
Yeah, but he messed up. He should have said Corey instead of Sean.
I know, exactly. That was kind of funny. See, I mean, obviously that was kind of in the show, like how he is brainwashed because he just repeated the exact quote verbatim, including his own name. Yeah.
And when he's leaving, he says something to, he says to Corey, he's like, you know, you should check it out sometime. So yeah, so then we get to the point where Eric and Corey go to the center. What happens there?
Eric immediately like just quits what he's doing because some girls come up to like hug him and they like leave somewhere, which I don't know what was implied with that, because like they just left the room. And
I'm thinking he got a hand job from her.
Yeah, or something like that.
I'm just joking. I don't know. They never mention sex on this show much. So.
Well, but that's the thing. Sometimes these cults, they do use seduction techniques and stuff like that. But again, this is like Boy Meets World, so it's not like, you know, they're going to be doing that.
Yeah, you're not going to do that at 8:30 on a Friday night on TGIF, you know. So no. And then like even Corey is like kind of like for a second like mesmerized by his so-called charisma. I'm like, what charisma? There's nothing about this guy that's even like remotely charismatic. They don't give him enough time to be charismatic. Like I see it there, but it's not like you see it enough to it's not like he's, but then again, I don't see the charisma in like L. Ron Hubbard or Keith Raniere or any of these like cult leaders of modern times either,
Yeah, true. So yeah, and could be whatever floats your boat type of thing. But and so like it's weird too because Sean, the whole point of this group is that they're like, oh, don't judge us. We're a judge-free zone. And throughout the whole episode, Sean is like judging all of his friends, even like people who are trying to like ask him questions about like what the group stands for and stuff. And he's like, you wouldn't understand. It's like, well, that kind of goes against your ostensible teachings because you're supposed to not be judging people, but you're literally saying like, oh, this is not the place for you or whatever. It's like, but if according to your own beliefs, it is the place for everyone because there's no judgment. So going against your own supposed beliefs by saying that, like
he goes off on Corey about being there. He's like, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
When literally like 2 minutes earlier, he told him he said, you should check it out sometime,
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck? And he did the same thing to Mr. Turner.
Yeah.
He's like, you wouldn't understand this. I'm centered and you're not. That's just the way it is. It's like, but the whole point of being centered is to not judge people for not being centered. Like, what? Like, you're going against your own, I guess you could call it belief, which I don't really know what centered means necessarily because they don't even explain what that means, but okay.
I mean, I find it weird that like, he's known Corey and Topanga and, I'm assuming Mr. and Mrs. Matthews and Feeney for a long time. And, even a shorter time, he's known Turner, but they were like brothers to each other.
Yeah.
Never in any of that time he ever discussed his like spiritual beliefs.
Yeah.
Like
nothing at all.
Like ever. Like he's known Corey since he was like 5 and he's never said once, like, well, I'm an atheist or, oh, I'm a agnostic or, oh, I'm a Christian or I'm a Muslim or whatever. He never said anything,
Yeah.
It's like,
because he probably wasn't really taught anything. There wasn't, from his family or whatever, so it's like immediately he jumps into this, like, again, like there's no teachings of this cult. That's the thing. It's like there's nothing. Like, how do you join something? You know what it kind of reminds me of? I know this is a weird tangent. There actually is a cult out there that's kind of like this. It's called Subud, and it begins in Indonesia, and it's literally like it's like based off of like nothing. Like it's like oh, you could be a Jew, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, whatever it is, and you could join us. But like all we want you to do is to practice your own religion as best as you can. It's like, so what's the point of joining something new if all you're telling the people is to practice their own beliefs? I don't understand, like, what's the point? And it's like, but by the way, give donations to us for what exactly? Like, what is the point of this? Like,
I do find it funny too with Sean about not having any spiritual beliefs and everything, that like there are several times he has this like maroon shirt that he wears with like a Hinduism symbol on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like throughout the series of the show, I always liked that shirt. I thought it was pretty cool looking.
Probably just works. It looked cool or something,
Yeah, but I mean, it's throughout the show though. I mean, he's got kind of like a Hinduism, Buddhism sort of vibe to him, so it's like, yeah.
I mean, that's just Sean, man. It's just his personality. He's just vibing, and that's what he does. He lives off of vibes, man.
Mm-hmm.
Should call him, Vibe instead of Sean, or Sean Vibes, or Vibe Sean's, or Shives. I don't know. And then
or you can just go by his real name in real life, which is like one of the coolest names ever. I mean, Ryder Strong. I mean, that's just...
Yeah, so that's a good one. Just call himself Ryder or Ride or whatever. Yeah.
Which does, I will tell you that it does sound like a porn name, though. But, I mean, I'm just...
It does a little bit. Yeah, sure. It a little bit. But that's okay. And, I mean, that's a better name than Ron Jeremy or whatever,
Yeah. I mean, if Ryder Strong's life ever goes way downhill, no, he's not going to do that. He's got
no. No.
He's pretty successful with his podcast right now, Pod Meets World, and he's happily married with a kid, so it's...
Yeah, I think he's set, and I think he's set in life.
Do you have dreams that you want to achieve, but are scared to do so due to self-doubt, fear, and other people's criticism? I have just what you need. You need a dose of the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, where I interview guests that will motivate and inspire you to stop at nothing to achieve your dreams. And always remember, If you believe, you can achieve.
The Living the Dream with Curveball podcast is available on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, everybody. Why don't you give the old Black Lincoln Collective podcast a listen? We're funny, we're fat, and we're here 24/7 at blcpodcast.com. Anytime you want to listen, anywhere, all your favorite podcast apps. Of course, we have a YouTube channel where you can stream live with the show. Check out our shorts. We're funnier the less you hear of us. That's been the Black Lincoln Collective podcast at blcpodcast.com.
And so, I mean, what else happens? I'm kind of blanking here.
So like, okay, they go there, you know, and later on we have a scene outside, in the backyard or side yard of the Matthews house. Anybody that listens to Pod Meets World will get what I'm saying there, because they have a debate on that show. Some of the hosts believe that it's the Matthews backyard, and some believe it's the side yard because of where it's, because technically Feeney lives next door to them, but it's like, okay, anyways, so. It's like, but they're out there and Feeney's in his yard. They're at the fence and they're talking about what to do about Sean and everything. And, you know, Mr. Matthews is getting all upset and he says, yeah, I'm going to go down there and, you know, yank the kid out of there, basically, you know. And Feeney's like, oh, I'm going to join you. But then Sean and Eric walk up and they thank Eric for bringing Sean back. But then Sean says, no, I brought Eric back. They don't want him in the cult because he was in it just for the hugs. Yeah.
Euphemism for the hugs.
Yeah, I'm sure it was more than hugs. Anyways.
Yeah.
Because I always got this. Okay, so I mean, I know this is like totally like sexually gross in a way, but I mean, I always got the image that Eric, he's dumb as a box of rocks sometimes, but I always felt he fucked.
What though?
I always felt that Eric fucked, you know? It's like he was out there getting girls and, you know.
Yeah.
I always felt that way about Sean too. So it's like, you know, I mean, they would never say that on a, you know, show during the 8 o'clock hour on ABC, but you know, so so basically while they're doing that, you know, they're basically trying to convince Sean to stay. And, you know, it's like, you know, you're staying with us while your parents are out of town and blah, blah, blah. And Feeney gets a phone call. So he goes in there and he comes out and he says that Mr. Turner's been in an accident, a motorcycle accident. So, you know, he's like, oh, can you, you know, Alan, can you drive me to the hospital to Mr. Matthews? He, you know, they're about to go, and then they, you know, Corey's like, come on, Sean, let's go. And he's like, no, I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, what do you mean meet me? Yeah. I will say this. Corey seemed like a little asshole in this episode sometimes. But yeah, but a lot of times, I mean, Ben Savage's acting in the way he just seems kind of self-righteous a lot of times. Throughout the when I rewatch the show, a lot of times it's like Corey. I don't blame Ben Savage as much as I blame the writing. Sometimes it's almost like they make Corey this holier than thou sort of character, where you know, because like there's times where he like totally manipulates Topanga in their relationship. You know, it's just it's very, you know, kind of weird. And I mean, you know, it could also be that, you know, I'm not really sure how I feel about Ben Savage right now. So, yeah, in reality, he's running for office to replace Adam Schiff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's a Democrat running there, but he also attended the pro-Israel rally that was in Washington D.C. recently. That also included a known Nazi, basically. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just doesn't make sense. But yeah, and he's been pretty pro-Israel since October 7th, which take your political views either way you want, listeners. I don't care, but I'm just saying that it's just, I don't know, not asking for a ceasefire is kind of lame in my opinion. So, but regardless, so they go to the hospital and Topanga shows up and asks where Sean is, and you know, it's like I don't know, you know, and then Sean and Mr. Mack walk in and he's trying to goad people. He introduces himself to the Matthews and then he says something to Feeney. It's like, I forgive you for trying to shut us down.
Trying? How? Okay. So he has a bunch of minors living with him. How is this legal? Like, I don't know.
Feeney says, you know, a couple times that he tried to shut him down. He knows Mr. Mack and he's been trying to get it shut down. And I'm just like, the cops in this town, in Philadelphia or wherever, it's like, why are they not doing something when these minors are just living under the roof of a guy that's not their relative?
I mean, that's technically, what would they call that? Not kidnapping, but like,
Isn't it like child trafficking almost?
well, not really. I don't know what word it would be, but just like it's
Yeah.
illegal because they're like delinquent technically, because
Yeah.
they're not with either the parents or their established guardians. Like, for example, Sean
Yeah, I mean,
was supposed to
but
be staying with the Matthews.
But I mean, it's weird though. Like they're staying there. A lot of times in cults though, they'll take you out of they'll make you not go to school and stuff. But Sherry was showing up to John Adams High there and stuff. So it's like,
Yeah, so at least she was putting on a sod, still having
yeah.
a normal life or whatever.
Or his weird cult allows people to go to public school.
Well, that's what makes an open-minded cult, so because that way you spread the message, among the masses that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense.
Well, you got to recruit somehow.
Yeah, and what better way to recruit than public schools, apparently.
I
don't know.
You at least let your attractive women go to the school so they can get more
Well,
guys.
it's just, what you got to do. You do what you got to do,
Yeah. So that they're at the hospital, and Feeney is like, he gets up in Mr. Mac's face and starts yelling at him, and he's like, you can't have Sean and blah, 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 and all this other stuff, and yelling at him. And Alan takes him aside, and he's like, no, you can't do that. And then, basically like, he's trying to goad you, blah, blah, blah. And then Alan gets goaded into it and just pushes the dude up against the wall. And
threatens to murder him.
Yeah, and he basically says, I don't care what you think, but I do know that Sean Hunter is the best friend my kid has ever had, and I would kill for him, basically. So it seemed like he was kind of threatening Mr. Mac's life.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yep.
But Amy, his wife, pulls him away and basically says, he would love a lawsuit. Then we have, while this is all going on, it looks like Corey and Topanga and Sean all go into Mr. Turner's hospital room, and he's like all like nervous. He's like, I don't know what to do with this, blah blah blah. And he's like, I need Mr. Mac. And Corey has this like another holier than thou moment, but well justified in my opinion. Here. He's basically just like telling him, you have to stay here, basically like, this is a dude that cares about you, you care about him, you got to be here, and this is what, where you got to be. He's like, Topanga and I can leave, but you got to stay here, sort of thing. And they leave the room, and then he has this like really big emotional speech where he's talking to Turner, talking to God, bargaining for Turner's life. He says, don't take Turner away from me. He's not done yelling at me, which he sadly is, because
yeah.
This is the last scene we ever have with Mr. Turner in the whole series.
Yeah. We have no idea of his fate. They never talk about him. They never even mention his name.
Well, they do mention him in one episode later on.
Okay.
There's like a graduation episode, and Minkus reappears after being gone since the first season. And they do like kind of a break of the third wall sort of thing where Minkus says, "Hold up, Mr. Turner," and he goes off like towards the camera and past the camera, and Corey and Sean are basically like, "What's over there?" And he's like, "That's the other part of the school, that we never see," sort of thing. So that's basically where Turner has been the whole time. He's been in the other part of the school that we just didn't see for a season or two. Anyway, so but it was stupid. They make this big emotional scene between between Sean, basically, because it's just Sean, and like Turner doesn't even wake up. He's just, his hands start moving, so he knows he's going to be okay. But we don't find out we don't see Turner again for 18 years on Girl Meets World.
Yep.
So when he is somehow conveniently, because Corey and his family live in New York City, and now Turner is somehow the like superintendent of schools in New York City, and is Corey's boss because Corey's a teacher.
Of course, it's like a Bayside situation where they all move to the same city.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, this is just it's sitcom convenience. And but there's so there's this big emotional scene, and then we have a final scene after the first credits roll, and we see that Sean basically tells Mr. Mack he's gonna go back and get his shit and move out of the center, and asks the Matthews if it's okay if he moves back in with them, which they should have just said no. No, I'm just joking.
No, you gotta go back to the center.
You made your choice, you fucking asshole.
Your choice. Now be brainwashed again. Terrible ending.
Yeah, and so then And then, you know, it's like, yeah, we never see Turner again.
Nope.
So that's the episode. So I've got a list here of 10 signs of a cult, and I want to ask you if you think that that this cult adhered to these things, or, you know,
Okay.
or signs of this. Okay. The first one is absolute authoritarianism without accountability.
Not really. They didn't really do anything. So that's the thing. There's no, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could have been if we would have gone more in depth. Number 2 is zero tolerance for criticism or questions. I think we saw that.
Well, with Sean, but I
Yeah.
don't know if we saw that with
Yeah, but all we really saw was Sean.
So with Sean, definitely, and probably with Mr. Mac, but he did it probably
Yeah.
more of a way of kind of more subtle about it, as opposed to like being a dictator. He probably would just dodge criticism by then focusing on the other person by basically saying like, well, why do you think that way? Or why, you know,
Yeah.
that type of thing. But yeah, I would say sure, half C on that one.
This one, we didn't have enough time for it to appear, so I already know the answer to this. It's like lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget.
Yeah, we're not really sure about that one.
Yeah. 4 is unreasonable fears about the outside world that often involve evil conspiracies and persecutions. I'd say to a point, but not.
I mean, the whole thing about like, you know, other people in your life judge you, but we don't. But that's not the same thing. I think of like a conspiracy, like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's very light cold. I would say very ever so slightly.
It's a diet cult.
Yeah, diet cold. Yes, yeah,
I think I thought of a new shirt.
diet cold. There you go.
Yeah. It's like a Diet Coke, but it's still Diet Cult. Yeah, it's a 5 is a belief that former followers are always wrong for leaving, and there is never a legitimate reason for anyone else to leave.
I mean,
We didn't really get into that.
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I would.
But I will say, Mr. Mack at the end of the episode told Sean, you know, there's always a place for you there, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this is one of those weird cults
Mhm.
where it's kind of like a kill you with kindness type of thing, where
Mhm.
it's like, even if like someone does leave, they'll just like, instead of like saying like, oh, this person's evil or whatever, they'd be like, oh, well, they just chose a different path than we did. And
I mean,
even though we're right and he's wrong, you know, we still love him anyway. So it's kind of, again, it's like a way of
Yeah.
sort of subverting like
a lot of cult documentaries that I've seen too about cults is they start out that way too, where they're like all like loving and stuff, and maybe this is still like the, you know, step 1 in the cult, and then eventually
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
So the next one is abuse of members.
Well, I mean, I guess aside from the fact that he's having minors live with them, I guess that, you know, could be technically abuse just that alone. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that definitely, you know, but other than that, I mean, we didn't really see anything, so I don't know.
Yeah, the next one is like there's records, books, and articles or programs documenting the abuse of the leader or group. Obviously, we didn't have enough time in this episode.
So,
Yeah.
well, in the next episode, they have a secret episode, well, like behind the scenes, where they do show like him like beating up Eric and throwing him out a window and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that happened in between him and between the scene that we saw at where Eric was hugging everybody and Sean bringing him home.
Yep.
Yeah.
somehow he's all patched up. He didn't have bruises or anything, but
Yeah, it's just good makeup. They make you put on makeup
Yeah.
so you don't. Yeah. So you hide your bruises. The 8 is followers feeling they are never able to be good enough, which, you know, that's the type of people that you get in there is basically you, at this cult at least, you know, they were trying to
Yeah.
get people like, because Sean was going through a, like, you know, basically just regular teen angst, but they're basically, they always like overplay it on the show, you know, it's like he's going through the same shit I was going through when I was a kid, but, you know.
yeah.
The next one is a belief that the leader is right at all times. Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
And the final one that they got listed here is a belief that the leader is the exclusive means of knowing quote unquote truth or giving validation.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say so.
Yeah. And this is from a website called Very Well Mind. So I don't know. I just did a search for what are the warning signs of a cult. So yeah. So, you know, and I mean, there's also the major one, like, you know, always has a charismatic leader, you know, they ostracize you from your family and friends, different things like that I've seen in the past. So yeah. So, I mean, basically look out for these things. I mean, it was kind of a good message here, but do you think that the message actually worked in this episode, or do you think it was like too cheesy and too short for it to actually have any kind of
No, it was too cheesy. I don't think it. I mean, I think it fell flat. Because it was just goofy, and it was too rushed. Again, like, 3 minutes in, and he's already a member of this cult, and we don't even know what the cult teaches or anything other than the fact that they got this guy that they call Mr. Mac, who wears like a stupid suit, and we don't know if he even like has them give him their money or anything else or whatever. And so it just, I don't know, it just didn't. I've seen other episodes from other shows that would talk about someone like joining the cult or some kind of group that's done it. Like, for example, the episode was kind of a few episodes where in Degrassi and Next Generation, where Spinner joins like a Christian group in school and like becomes like obsessed with it and stuff like that, and like basically becomes like a born again Christian for like a month, I guess, and then they did that better. But that's Degrassi for you. Well, Degrassi goes there.
It goes there. Yeah, I was gonna say it goes there. Whatever it takes. Anyway, so I mean, like I randomly I'm going through rewatching the TV show Monk, with Tony Shalhoub, and I randomly watched, like, the day before I watched this episode of for our podcast, I watched an episode where Mr. Monk joined a cult.
Oh wow!
And even that, which was done in a humorous way, I think did a better job of explaining a cult than this episode. So yeah, so it's there's a lot of things, and I mean, obviously now we live in the age of cult documentaries going, are all over Max and Netflix and Amazon and everything. You've got the Twin Flames one that came out recently. There's 2 of those. There's a Born into Synanon one, which came out recently. There's that one with the Mother God one, and on Max. Yeah, there's a lot of different ones, and you of course you had what was that one a few years ago, that Wild Wild Country or whatever.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
I like that one.
That one was interesting. So if you want to learn about cults, just go on one of your streaming services, and there's bound to be a cult documentary. And there's also you've got the whole like Leah Remini's Scientology and the Aftermath series that came out a few years ago, which goes in depth into that. And there's other TV shows that deal with like explaining all these different cults, which we sadly have a lot of in the United States, it seems. I'm sure there's a lot elsewhere, but it just seems like a lot in the United States, like the Nexium thing. And
there's also one I like too. It's called it's on YouTube. It's called like How to Become a Cult Leader, or how to form a cult or whatever. And it's like 15 minutes long. It's like an indie film from like the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's just 15 minutes long, and it just like has like this really cool like upbeat music throughout the whole thing, and it's just like going into all the different like phases of a cult or whatever. It's like, I wish I could remember the name. Maybe I'll find the link later or something.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you don't want to learn how to become a cult leader, though. People don't do it.
Well, maybe.
Well, we should start the All Too Real 2 cult.
Sure.
Yeah. Our tenets are that you have to watch bad movies and TV shows, and sometimes good ones. When you're behaving. And,
yeah, sometimes good.
Yeah. You don't have to isolate from your family or anything. You just have to watch the movies along with us and listen to our podcast.
Yeah, and donate to our Patreon.
Yes, and and check out our TeePublic. We have some we have, if you listen to our last episode, our Buttercream Gang episode, we do have new products up right now of the Buttercream Gangs of New York that I designed. So be sure to check that out. You can get a shirt or a mug or other products on there with that logo on it, and look forward to the Diet Colt one, which I think I may be designing soon. Do that. Go to alltooreal2.com. That's the best way to join our cult. And check out all of our social media, and make sure you spread the good word. And all praise he that is all too real too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Anyways, do that. Be sure to go out and give everybody hugs.
Yeah, sure.
Even if they don't want them, just do it.
But don't be like a weird hugger like Sean was about it. Like,
yeah, I mean, you may get arrested for assault, but
True. Yeah.
So maybe don't
Be
do
careful.
that. Yeah, be careful with your hugs. But you know what? Hugs, not drugs. But everybody, hugs, not drugs.
Yep.
Unless they're prescribed or, they help you in some way. Anyway, so any final words here?
No.
Okay. Anyways, folks, just remember that I love you, Mr. Mac loves you, and Sesame loves you.
Yeah.
And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.